I'm Brian Arbenz. The Republican right wing had just taken over the House, and Mitch McConnell was now the aspiring Senate Majority Leader. And it recalls a day in 1978 when I had a real live encounter with the future most powerful Republican in the country. And every word of this is true. I call this the day I almost starved a senator. What on earth could have transformed Mitch McConnell from a baron of subdivision drainage and park maintenance 3.5 decades ago into the bare-knuckled power wielder for the nation's elites? How was a bespectacled, ostensibly nerdy, tentative-voiced suburban county government chief turned into America's prime arbitrator of conservative priorities with a mandate to declare to the pundits which law is the worst of our time? The man who once politely asked for legendary civil rights activist Lyman Johnson's endorsement today confidently defends his party's various state voter ID laws which will keep millions of minorities and the poor home on Election Day. Who or what made this once mousy-appearing civil servant roar? Did someone push Mitch's buttons in a moment of crisis decades ago, setting off a hunger for validation, the kind to which politicians, including those actually in office and those of us who once longed to be, are so vulnerable? Remember that word hunger as I start to recount a brush with a future Senate Minority Leader in 1978 that, who's to say, didn't change the course of history. Then as now, I was on the far left. Not an easy place for a college student in the era quite accurately deemed the me generation on campus. Today, while Mitch McConnell and other Republicans insist they aren't for exploiting the 99, or as Mitt Romney puts it, 47%, one of that group, then named George Morrison, collected concrete evidence, actually copper, that could qualify me for a spot on Rachel Maddow to portray Mitch as cheap and arrogant, to Marie Antoinette proportions. But hold on, adequate wages must be earned, not guaranteed. Yes, you heard correctly, I'm on the far left, and my encounter with my side's future nemesis taught me that bit of conservative wisdom. Let me tell you though, it must have taught the powerful something we leftists always hold true. Poverty hurts. Now, unless first-year Jefferson County Judge Executive Mitch McConnell, 35 years ago, had an intelligence-gathering operation that would make today's Secretary of Homeland Security blush, he could not have judged the 20-year-old college student bussing tables in a downtown Louisville restaurant he entered at noontime one autumn day as anything more than an inconsequential, still high schoolish looking kid out to make enough in tips to buy a six-pack. Well, in defiance of that period's youth norms, I eschewed the brew and spent my dollars instead on the works of Michael Harrington, Kate Millett, and Norman Thomas. Mitch entered a Main Street Row restaurant called the New York Steak Exchange with two other suits, presumably from county government or the business realm. To everyone's dismay, this power lunch happened on absolutely our worst day. Even on our best, we were no gastronomical gem. A newspaper review said our various gimmicks, including a real working stock ticker over the bar, couldn't make up for the mediocrity of the food. On this day, the service was poor to boot. So crowded were we that my supervisors had me work as a food server while not bussing tables. After Mitch's party had waited an inordinate amount of time for their food, we hauled 3 plates through the frenetic din to their table, only to be told this was not what the trio had ordered. We apologized and took the plates back and placed them under the red lights to await their rightful owners. More time went by as the judge executive and his cohorts were just the most recognizable people in this restaurant hungering. Only so much politics and policy can be discussed at a table before where's our food becomes the sole concern. and the 3 orphan plates sat there under the red lights until another server was ordered to take them to the McConnell table on the chance that they were theirs. Oh dear. I gave chase trying to stop her. You see, in the restaurant business, there is no mistake worse, more glaringly unprofessional and insulting than bringing someone the wrong food. At that moment, I realized that there, in fact, is. That is bringing someone the wrong food twice. And as though the damage to us could have been worse, we were bringing the wrong food twice to the head of county government, the government that includes the Restaurant Inspection Division of the Health Department. She reached their table asking, "Is this what you ordered?" Out of breath from running, I watched as Mitch and the other power hitters looked at the food and looked at each other. Then the nation's future highest-ranking member of the Republican Party looked at this young woman and said, in his classic McConnell-esque understated way, "Yes." Now, we weren't a grand jury, so this one-word lie doesn't have the scandal potential of Bill Clinton's "no" in response to an inquiry from Kenneth Starr about the president's involvement with an intern. Though if the Democratic Party had the GOP's chutzpah, learning of this would prompt it to call for McConnell's resignation tomorrow. But the Democrats, unlike their opponents, tend to know not to make a federal case over an unimportant falsehood which, like Clinton's, stemmed from a crucial human need, in this case, food. And Judge Executive McConnell, as they say in senatorial debate lingo, ate someone's lunch, learning in the process to avoid all contact from then on with the New York Steak Exchange, except, who knows, perhaps to send a memo about the restaurant to the health department. So could it be that the indignity of eating survival rations instead of what you wanted soured Mitch McConnell on those of us who can't afford to start our own super PAC? Well, who among us wouldn't have sympathized at that moment with Mitt Romney's declaration, "I like being able to fire people"? Restaurant diners can't do that directly to those who inflict even the lousiest service imaginable, but Mitch's trio found an even more revealing way to express their discontent. No tip? Nope. Lying on the McConnell party's table, inscribed with that Eisenhower-era legislative monetary notation, "In God We Trust," was a penny for the 3 of us who had waited on them somehow to divide among ourselves. Notice, Senator, that the nationwide perception of your party in the crucial year of 2012, fair or not, is that you have it in for low-wage workers, the left, and women. Whether the ravenousness and disrespect we made you endure 3½ decades ago lit your still-burning fire, or was forgotten the following morning, shouldn't you find cause to declare peace between the GOP and those constituencies from the knowledge that you once, albeit justifiably by most any standard, tipped a representative of each, literally 1/3 of a cent? If invincibility in politics is possible, Mitch McConnell appeared to have it going into this decade. He won against the 2008 anti-GOP tide. He had in 2002 garnered endorsements from even liberal publications, and he was always bathed in corporate money. However, as a working person, I also am perched on a privileged spot. I got to witness something astounding in 1978. I saw the well-heeled and self-assured Mitch McConnell hungry and frustrated, so desperately that he was reduced to lying. How many people can say that? Since marketing became paramount in medicine, or put another way, since Dr. Kildare gave way to P.T. Barnum in American hospitals, one buzz phrase after another has persuaded us that our lives depend on choosing the right one. One of the most intense mantras was broadcast a few years ago. Doubtless you remember it. These things are designed so you will. The ad ended with, "Insist on a Jewish surgeon." If you have lived in Louisville at all, you know that Jewish is a hospital with a fine reputation. I have great respect for it, in part because my family has had very good experiences there, but also because it has never been owned by any corporation starting with the letter H. But think for a moment of a first-time visitor to the city, a traveler on business or someone here for Derby or one of our cultural events, who plops down on the motel room bed, turns on the TV, and by random timing, his first impression of Louisville is the city's residents being implored to insist on a Jewish surgeon. Now, reactions among people unfamiliar with the city's hospitals would vary. My guess is there are three distinct varieties. The first traveler responds, "Well, of course, they're all brilliant." Perhaps she admires the community for daring to speak such taboo common wisdom. The second newcomer's reaction is alarm as he shoots up from the bed and declares, "Oh my God, the Zionist conspiracy has hit Louisville. Wait, isn't Louis Brandeis from this town? Now it's all becoming clear." Fear not, though, for the third person in town for Forecastle or the St. James Art Show has her 99% sensibilities offended by this stereotype and immediately pulls out her cell phone and fires off an email to LouisvilleKentucky.gov to protest it, ending her missile with, "What next? Insist on a Chinese laundry?" All three, of course, are mistaken. Neither anti-Semitism nor Hebrewphilia nor Zionism prompted a slogan so vulnerable to misinterpretation. It's testimony to Louisville's unconscious and perfectly innocent penchant for colloquialism. "What's this Belvedere?" asked an Atlanta-based editor of the wire service for which I worked a stint in the 1980s after I sent a story about a demonstration held on what I quickly revised to a concrete plaza overlooking the Ohio River. At least I knew that Churchill, or the Downs, though instantly recognized here, wouldn't suffice to describe Louisville's most acclaimed landmark to a nationwide readership. Amazingly, we called it the Downs, even while the harness racing track Louisville Downs also was operating. Likewise, I know not to call our greatest cultural venue just actors. I had the importance of this driven home to me when I did a story on labor struggles in Decatur, Illinois in the 1990s and was exasperated to continually hear about the strike at CAT, till I finally got someone to explain that CAT was the Caterpillar Equipment Plant. Even when we use full names, a certain insularity immunizes Louisvillians from the potential for double takes by outsiders. It never occurs to folks here on either side of the river that the name St. Mary of the Knobs, a Southern Indiana Catholic church, could produce laughter of biblical proportions by out-of-town visitors. Then there's a Protestant counterpart on the Louisville side of the river called Peniel Baptist Church. This seemingly countercultural name actually is a non-phallic, awkward adaptation from a biblical reference to a place in Jordan properly spelled Peniel. And I wonder how many accident reports in Oldham County police files describe Interstate 71 drivers from Ohio or New York or Tennessee losing control of their vehicles exactly at the spot, it turns out, where the sign announcing the exit to Pee Wee Valley comes into view. Discounting the folks who know that a peewee is an insect-eating bird, not the bicycling kids show character who would be denoted by an extra E, the indifference we who live here show toward the name of the woodsy Oldham County residential city affirms Louisville's innocence about our nomenclature. We're not alone, of course, but the bigger cities' colloquialisms become household words to the nation. The Mets at Shea Makes perfect sense to sports fans from Seattle to Key West, but the Cards at Yum? I covered local government, including occasionally in Pewee Valley, as a self-employed journalist for 17 years. And the name's provocative quality didn't register with me during the rush to meet deadlines. I might as well have been writing and saying Middletown or Hillview, even though I knew that Bob Edwards made light of Pewee Valley's name regularly when giving weather reports to National Public Radio audiences. Of course, that was the nation. This was us, and we just don't get it.